If you've got extra energy, you're going to plug in one of our donated. All right, we're going to try. So we went up there, did a site assessment, looked good, came back up and plugged them in. And it was mind blowing. We had 2 miners running, and the data at the time pre-halving said if it runs consistently, it's going to generate 40,000 sats per month. Now,
Pre-halving?
pre-halving. So, and that's if it's running full time. And it gets dark, it doesn't run full time. You don't want to run miners on batteries, and it's dusty and it's dirty, and there's just a million challenges with it. Not a million, but there's plenty of challenges. So, but what happened as soon as we did that and we started mentioning it online, we got an overwhelming support. Like the very day that we took a photo of these miners online, we had received more sats to the Bitcoin address of the miner than it would generate for an entire year. It was just crazy. So that was inspiring.
The following is an interview with Jimmy Kostro, the co-founder of the Bitcoin Education Center in Thailand. It's actually in Chiang Mai, as you'll see in the video. I visited Jimmy and the center as part of my upcoming videos about Bitcoin in Thailand. One quick thing to note, I am a tool, and somehow I didn't connect the bloody microphones correctly to my laptop, so we're actually running this interview off the backup audio. I'm so sorry about that, but Jimmy still comes through loud and clear, and his story is well worth sharing. I hope you like it.
Where are we, Jimmy?
Oh, well, we're in Chiang Mai.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for coming, and I'm happy to see that you finally made your way up here.
Yeah, man. It's not actually much of a trek. I came here direct from Koh Samui on a flight, so into domestic Thailand flights. And the second I stepped off the plane here, like whereas in Bangkok you step off the plane and you're like, it's intense. In Chiang Mai, you're like, huh. The pace of life. The taxi driver didn't drive like a madman. He was chatty. You know, the weather is nowhere near as intense as Bangkok, rather. And you know, you've got these old ruins and the lovely canal around it. And it's just suddenly like, okay, I could see myself, spending some time.
Did you have a window seat or an aisle seat?
On the plane, emergency exit aisle seat.
Aisle
Sorry,
seat.
emergency exit window seat, rather.
Window seat. Okay, so you're able to see the mountains as you're coming.
Oh,
coming
it was too
in?
misty, unfortunately.
Okay.
We broke through the mist, and then suddenly it was just like those sort of square sort of fields,
Yeah.
and then a few low-rise buildings. Chiang Mai here.
This is typically one of the best times of year to come to northern Thailand is November, December, January.
Okay.
Because we have this rainy season, pretty much June, July, August, September, into October. So there's a lot of hotels are booked. There's a big celebrations. It's a huge traveling part of the year, all the way until about March. We get a burning season, and then it gets really smoky. So sometimes that mist is actually smoke or pollution. They call it PM 2.5.
What are they burning?
They're just burning the crops outside of the city and even in the neighboring countries. So we'll get, since we're in a bowl, you'll get the debris from even Myanmar or China or in the northern Thai mountains, comes down in here, and it gets really difficult for 2 months out of the year.
No way. So during that period, you get out of Chiang Mai?
Yeah, we typically do. We go down south where you were recently. We'll try out one of the islands, but sometimes it lacks the infrastructure or the Wi-Fi or the water pressure or the air condition. So we find ourselves coming right back up here.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. And I totally understand why. Okay, so for the purpose of this conversation today, I really wanted to get to know you as a person, your sort of Bitcoin journey, then understand what's going on with Bitcoin in Thailand. I know, of course, you're American originally, but you've spent enough time here, I think, and you spent enough time with the Bitcoiners and the Bitcoin scene around here to give a really informed view of what's going on there. And then the final thing was to talk about this education center, sort of the importance of those physical spaces with regards to Bitcoin. Just had a lot of information that is going to be super chill.
Cool.
Just to get to know you and also for listeners and viewers to understand who you are. Like, who are you, Jimmy? Where do you come from?
So my name's Jimmy Kostro. I'm originally from New Jersey, right outside of New York City. I moved to South Florida right after the Marine Corps. And I spent about 15 years there. And then in 2018, I decided to start traveling to see the world, and had a very talented woman take over the operations of my organization that's still running today. We deliver prepared healthy food a company called Meal Plan Delivery. We're in 12 different markets right now. So we started in South Florida, but we actually have a hub in New York that services Boston, Connecticut, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, Virginia, also all the way out into California. We were servicing last year in San Diego and Los Angeles, and a few other smaller markets. So that journey, I realized really I was smarter people around me, smarter accountants, smarter operators. And I said, I should really get away. And actually, as I stepped away, they led the business real well. As I kind of started learning about Bitcoin in 2017, around the end of the block size war, I wasn't really sure what the objective was. I thought it was to find the next Bitcoin. And one of the big problems was like, since I got in right when that ICO thing happened, my friend told me about it, so I was putting a few $1,000s on just these random things.
Did you find the next big one?
No, unfortunately, fortunately and unfortunately, what happened was they took off, and I thought and that had set me off on the totally wrong course for quite a while, maybe 18 months. So like I thought, wow, like these, I don't even want to give them the time to say their names, but these shit coins that just ripped super hard. I was like, oh, this is better than my job. So I should be doing this. But no, the organization's done really well since 18 and 19. We started putting all the extra cash flows into Bitcoin over the years.
Oh, so you've been doing Bitcoin Standard for what's it called, Healthy Meals Delivered?
Say again?
Meal prep delivery.
Yeah, meal prep delivery
Meal
service.
prep delivery service.
So there's about, at peak, we had over 120 drivers in different markets. And we would take the cash flows starting in the mid 2020 and putting that into Bitcoin. What's really fascinating is the goal was like first achieve like my strongest year salary in Bitcoin.
Okay.
That was like what my stacking goal. I had stacking goals. And then as I became more ambitious, I was like, maybe I could make the annual revenue of the company and make that, and that would be the goal. Wow. And then I would say, okay, now we want to get to the point, and as Bitcoin's having its compound annual growth rate of roughly 50% or however you measure it, that was quickly becoming achievable. And then I started really looking at it saying, well, if I could just get to the point of our very best year of revenue equal and stacked Bitcoin, then if something were to happen to the fiat business, then the Bitcoin business, I start thinking of it as a Bitcoin business, is going to appreciate 40, 50, 60%. So then I was rushing and stressed. I thought I was going to miss the boat, the whole way. And so that was this journey I got on as soon as it clicked for me, because I was so disappointed that I got on the wrong train in the beginning. And I was like really praying that I'd see 15,000 again. And I would, I missed that time, and it came back in 2022. And I was like, man, I prayed for this and you're giving it to me. And I'm going to step right in front of it. So, and I lived humbly. I actually traveled the world looking for the best place to live. I moved to Chiang Mai. All roads led me here. And as we mentioned earlier, the cost of living, the quality of life, the weather, the food, the people, the safety, all of it was like, this is perfect. So that's kind of like my backstory of my fiat, like into Bitcoin, into traveling.
Awesome. I mean, I'm getting sort of MicroStrategy and Michael Saylor eating out vibes. You were there before he was running your business.
No, he definitely gave me the urgency of like, oh man, I'm
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you know tahinis in Canada, the shawarma restaurants? You heard of those guys?
No.
Thing. So,
Yeah.
It's similar in the sense that they're both in food and beverage industry, and they also started to run their business on the tahini Bitcoin standard and put as much as they could into Bitcoin. I think it was late 2019, early 2020, and similarly had those stack goals as well. But I think there must be other businesses that were doing that at a similar time.
Well,
to really trend them.
I couldn't have arrived. I couldn't have got there without it appreciating the way it appreciates. So like, if it was just like, at 50,000 all that time, I wouldn't have got there. But over the last year or two, if you look at just the last 2 years, from 15,000 to 90,000 or 92,000, that's 450% or something crazy.
Yeah.
So like, if you were to talk to me a year ago, we wouldn't have been able to achieve that level of it. So now the idea is keep stacking as we're going, and worst case, we're on that Bitcoin standard. So it is now our business is how I look at it. So I have these two businesses. One's the fiat business, and now that one has to somehow grow at the pace of this one, and over time it just isn't
Yeah.
realistic.
Yeah, good luck, right? But you're able to manage that from Thailand,
Yeah.
despite that's what, 10, 11 hours? I don't know what the time difference is.
Oh yeah. I'm not actively involved. I just help manage the bank account and the accounting. I help do the accounting, some of the CPA stuff. So answer high level questions, and but maybe 1 or 2 hours a month.
No, so it's mostly running itself now, and that's why you're able to focus on the
Yeah.
kind of stuff. Okay, that's really really cool, really really
Thanks.
inspiring. Nice, yeah. And so, talk to me about Chiang Mai. Like, what do you like about it here? You mentioned a few of those sort of touch points there.
Oh yeah, Chiang Mai is beautiful. Like one of the very best. It's almost like shh, and it's really really nice. And I really wish a lot of people could experience Chiang Mai. Uh, the people are kind. They're soft. They're caring. Like even if we're loud, and you know, it's so safe. And I was mentioning off camera before, I could leave my phone or my computer and use the restroom and not think once about it. I've left my stuff all over the country and it comes back to me. So I'm not irresponsible, but leave something in somewhere and it comes back. That's such a huge thing. The cost of living is extremely affordable. If you have a business in the West and you can live in the East, I mean, it's a 300 or 400% difference.
Yeah.
We have a really nice house on the golf course up there, and we pay 4,000 US a year, which is like 350 or $70 a month.
Whoa.
We put a little renovation into it. It's a really fascinating story, because at the time they wanted to buy it, they wanted to sell it, but it was 250,000 or 12 Bitcoin, and that was 2 years ago. And then a year ago, I was explaining to the family that because my girlfriend's family is like, well, why would you rent? I'm like, well, there's this thing, and it's
Well, then
hard to explain, especially in different language. But and then the following year ago, that same house was 6 Bitcoin, and then today, and this was literally in October. So if you look at it, October again, maybe 25 months later, being that it's where we are in November, it's like 3.5 Bitcoin.
Wow. And so if you're measuring it in Bitcoin, does that mean in theory you could buy it in Bitcoin as well?
No, but I count in Bitcoin.
No, I mean, I'm the same. It's
Yeah.
increasingly becoming my yardstick, the way of
Yeah.
measuring the worth of or the value of something. But I have gotten worse at it in the past month or two, purely because we're in that pinch me moment of how are we at 90K?
Yes.
But it's going to get even more weird next year.
It is getting weird because it's just been especially the last few weeks.
Yeah, but so if you were to try to buy in Bitcoin, because I've seen stuff advertised in Thailand for Bitcoin, I know that you see it on Facebook Marketplace. I'm just doing sort of cursory research before coming out here to try to get a sense of like the pulse of Bitcoin here. And I know that as a payments tool, it's not really widely used or widely sort of encouraged purely, and this is just my summation of the scene right now, because the Thai banking infrastructure is actually quite good. You see a lot of Thai people scanning a QR code, showing it to the person to register and saying, yo, I'm paid, and they'll get the notification. Like, that's way better than like an Apple Pay or a Venmo or whatever else. It's equivalent or better than the incumbent solutions in the West. So I get that Lightning maybe doesn't have as big as a use case here, but maybe for bigger purchases like houses, cars, that kind of stuff, is it more reasonable?
I'm unfamiliar with the large purchases in Bitcoin here.
Okay.
But regarding the QR code, it's called PromptPay, and all of our banks are linked. So everyone, even the grandma or grandpa that's selling coconut on the street, they have this QR code, and any bank can take it, and it's just as fast as Lightning. Finally converges, it's going to be very native to the Thai people because it's exactly the same.
So it's going to be far away.
It feels really the same. But regarding payments in Bitcoin, I'm just unfamiliar. Like here in town, we have about 4 locations. I was going to talk to you about that you should check out. There's a newer place, a cafe, and there's a restaurant. There's a fish and chip spot.
Fish and chips.
Yeah.
Those Brits over here.
We're gonna have to get you over there too. That's a fairly newer place. So yeah, it's becoming as we've seen over the last month, more people are interested. Being this is a Bitcoin building, we're getting a lot of locals more curious about because the number go up. So and the native Thai classes that we could talk about if you like are so big that they outfit the room, and they moved over to an 85 person Skype in Thai on What Is Money. They called it Broken Money, kind of Lynn's book. And they held like a 2 hour Zoom with, and believe it or not, it was a lot of medical doctors and dentists very interested in what Bitcoin is and understanding the basics.
Interesting. That's another thing I was actually discussing with Ricky, this Italian podcast the other day. He does a lot of travel to emerging markets around the world, and we were sort of discussing this notion that even in poorer countries, it tends to be the middle class that adopts Bitcoin sooner because higher level of education, and they're usually looking for somewhere to store the savings that they've got, and they're aware of things like inflation and money printing and those sort of concepts that we take for granted. But when you're first coming into Bitcoin, they can be a bit like alien almost. Like, are you noticing a similar trend with you mentioned number go up and more people coming in? The people coming in, do they tend to be doctors, lawyers, accountants, more sort of a higher level of education amongst them?
It's a big mix because the people on the lower rung are struggling even more. So everyone's looking for the Thai people have a little bit of a gambler inside of them. It's very very common to have Thai people gambling. So they are familiar with like different gambling sites and platforms, and even like the Muay Thais. They even have these like fights. I don't know if they're even Samui, they call it cockfights or cockfights. That's pretty cool. So there's a gamble. There's already this like notion of gambling in Southeast Asia and Thailand specifically. But to say which kind of which classes is more interested.
Profile, which group,
Which profile, yeah. It's hard. It's really hard for me to say because I'm not Thai. I've been here for 3 years. Phi gets a very big mix. We'll have people that aren't even in university, and we have people that are in that work as a surgeon in the hospital interested. So it's a very scattered mix. There's no real.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, just on that note of the Muay Thai thing, I tried it for the first time this weekend.
Yeah.
Beaten up by a Thai person will definitely humble you. Maybe more than a bear market will. But I tried to pay him in Bitcoin crypto portfolio, and I was like, oh god, here we go. But it did sort of that idea of in Southeast Asia in particular, that gambling vibe. I mean, we felt it because we first met in Hong Kong, right?
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you actually, before we go back to the Thai stuff, what were your sort of impressions of the not just Hong Kong conference, but also sort of like Bitcoin in Asia generally, because they tried to get that to be like a flavor of Bitcoin in Asia, right?
Yeah. So when we met on the boat or like outside of the conference.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
My if I think of anything from that conference, I'm thinking how impressed I was to see the ratio of females over males.
So true. Yeah.
That was a big notice for me. One thing that's very noticeable for me, and then their interest in ETFs and getting the larger players on board. But we haven't really seen that develop. But the talk of it, or maybe they're doing more of the due diligence, or waiting to see how it plays out in the West or in America. But those are two really big things that stuck out to me. I mean, Hong Kong, Singapore, these are going to be like continue to be the financial hubs, I believe. Well, and I believe as institutional grade lending comes, these are going to be big hubs too. So I'm really looking forward to that because that'll help onboard other than having to just sit on their Bitcoin.
Okay, yeah, because like high level in Thailand, there's lots of crypto exchanges, but there's lots of like token this, token that. Like crypto has definitely got strong penetration. I think that some of the stats, like statistics said it's like 12% penetration of crypto in Thailand.
The process here for a Thai national to get on the exchange is a rigorous process. It takes a long time to get KYC'd, and it's very frustrating. And there's not many alternatives, and there's not many there's not like the hodls and things that they're familiar with. There's friction with that, and I'm not sure, like we don't have like the Strikes of the world or anything like Cash App. They can't use all these easy ones. They don't have access to Swan or River. It's really frustrating because a lot of people ask, okay, this sounds great. How do I buy it? But being that like we're in an international hub, uh, we are the default is wherever country you're from, because you're not usually speaking with Thai about the problem, um, but Phi speaking the challenge, maybe not the problem, the challenge.
So, I mean, the US is definitely leading the way for Bitcoin only exchanges. It's amazing how many have sprung up in the past sort of bear market. Like UK and Europe have got a few more entrants. But yeah, when you look at the rest of the world, it's true that Bitcoin only on ramps are really like few and far between. But then that's like, oh, okay, great. That means the peer-to-peer market might be thriving. But what is the answer? Like, where do you direct a Thai person to buy Bitcoin and ideally not get distracted by those 30,000 things that follow?
Yeah, this is a complicated thing that really Binance is already active in Vietnam, and it looks like BitCub, which is the big one here,
Yeah.
is going to have competition soon. So I'm not sure how long they could keep those gates closed because there is a demand for Bitcoin, and BitCub is too difficult of entry point for many people.
Oh, really? Because of the KYC restrictions?
Yeah, and like it's crazy. Like it took Phi like when she did it 2 years ago, like 17 or 18 days, and you have to go to like a local 7-Eleven and get your photo taken there, and bring some QR code there, and wait, and tons of paperwork and back. I mean, it just feels like from all of the other countries that we talk to, it feels like Thailand's definitely one of the, if not the hardest one.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
I was speaking to Korea last week, and he said he's working on some sort of no KYC Bitcoin only on ramp. But he's saying again how challenging and difficult it is. But you can feel that need. And I mean, when I was trying to sort of orange pill or just introduce people to Bitcoin in Koh Samui in Bangkok, I was like, I don't actually know where to refer these guys. I don't
Yeah.
know where to, I'm like, okay, well that's it. Telegram groups, I guess, because there's got to be a Telegram group or a Signal group of people buying and selling. Right? Is that a thing here?
Yeah, I try not to get into it. Like a lot of people reach out to me about where could I buy, where could I sell my Bitcoin? It's just not worth the aggravation, the meeting these people. It's like, and you're not going to want to charge like a big spread
Yeah.
or a fee. And then it's like, all right, they only want a few $100, and it's like, all right, I'm going to stop my day. And like, time and the value of your time. And, if you make in the West $100,000 an hour or something, if you break it down 40 hours a week, it's $50 an hour. Like, am I going to go run to the mall, meet this guy to make $5? And it's just big headaches.
Yeah, and also you don't want that responsibility or that level of accountability.
Yeah.
Being that guy that's facilitating this.
Yeah. We don't want, we're an education focused business, like building. So we don't want to invite that. There's Bitcoin ATMs in Samui. The guys build them. They want to talk to us, and like it's legal, and you could do up to $100,000 per day. That's a viable solution if it's in a place where people have access to. But like, we don't want anything that's even a little gray area. So even when people ask us, well, where could we buy Bitcoin? We just say wherever your home country is, or not. Like we have 3 meetups. We have one that's native Thai, and then the Bitcoin 101 meetup is where a lot of these people ask these questions, and they're from everywhere. So we just say, where's your license from? That's where you should. That's on you to figure that out. So we're just providing the educational piece. And then the third one we have is the advanced meetups. And the advanced meetups, we have we had 40. We thought 40 people capacity was good for both floors. 20 up here, it's a pretty big space, comfortable. 20 down there, but the demand was way higher, and that's really cool. And so we created this lovely, like, higher quality space to really attract Bitcoiners. Just a Bitcoin focused building, and we realized, and so saying, where's the free food from with the crypto guys? We're talking off camera. We will cater for events and pay for it to attract the quality. We want to celebrate Bitcoiners, and we want to give them a place to show their projects. And so when we have these advanced Bitcoin meetups, 50 people will show up, like 50 people. So we actually have to say, please, we need to know if you're coming, because we're going to order food. Like, thank God we say we're going to order food, because that's our way of saying we need to know how many people are coming.
Yeah, yeah.
And, there's crazy things like the rite of passage. If I could segue into this. So you're familiar with Captain Sid.
Yeah. I can't remember where I met him, but
So,
it's very exotic again.
You guys might have shared a stage together over the years. He has these Bitcoin focused Bitcoin experiences, and Max was just on one this week. It was what a good time to be on a Bitcoin experience, motorbike, riding a motorcycle through northern Thailand, right? And people don't really know about this. So this brings in like eight guys from all over the world hear about this motorcycle tour by a Bitcoiner to share with you like the culture of Thailand. So, and it's led by Captain Sid, and he's a happy-go-lucky guy. He speaks Thai decently well, and he loves riding motorbikes. He loves talking about Bitcoiners, and he loves talking about Bitcoin with Bitcoiners, obviously, and he loves sharing the culture of Thailand. And these experience-driven events aren't just motorcycling for him. He's recently had about a month and a half back the people that have physical spaces like a retreat for 3 days. They went hiking to the waterfalls and they came through here too. So we get to see really fascinating experience driven stuff. And I really, really that in the rest of the world because that is so cool. And we meet such cool guys from this experience and women from this experience. And we try to like team up that advanced Bitcoin meetup with when those events are happening so they could experience that energy of all the Bitcoiners in this place. So like that kind of leads me to why I was talking about the property we want to rent back here is because we just simply need more space. And that's a really cool problem to have. But the space isn't just for like these random like Bitcoin meetups. Like that's cool. But we have people that are very interested in our research and they want to know why we're doing the research. And they want to know, and they're very interested in what we're doing in the hill tribes with the disadvantaged children. And so this it's becoming like so sometimes you almost want to have the gate, which we're going to have it be a lightning gate, because if it's just open, the Bitcoiners come and you really don't get a whole lot done. That's helping guide us. We have Phi, who is our lead researcher. We have two assistant researchers, Neo and Eve, that graduated with honors from a local university. We help them on their Bitcoin journey. And then we have two girls that are in an internship right now with us that also are from the Hill Tribes. So they go out and do the surveys and collect the data. And then just recently we got we're at 202 surveys back and they ask a bunch of questions. So we're trying to eventually publish a journal that Phi will use for her PhD if she wants to pursue this, that will show how these disadvantaged communities or marginalized communities, how Bitcoin can protect them or can enhance their life in some way. And like, yeah, so that just kind of segued into the research. So people come through here and we need more space. And we think that just outside, if we get this space here, that it's not just for Bitcoiners. We also want to we know there's not enough Bitcoiners. So we have to make them. So we want to teach English classes or savings classes, like finance, but savings at the basic level in this new savings technology. So that creates an awesome opportunity to make a big garden, bigger classroom. And then if we're lucky enough, we could extend it to even the larger property and we could have this be a bigger event. And then ideally, this will be like the Bitcoin corner. And then we'll just start to help this will be the Bitcoin corner in this part of Chiang Mai. So we want to create like an international hub and be the Southeast Asia regional Bitcoin Research Center and the Bitcoin Learning Center.
Okay.
But we also need to do our job to educate people and not just Bitcoiners. So and it's a lot. Like we're starting to become like an event planning business because there's so much stuff going on. Like, so, and as you mentioned, like Bitcoin burnout happens. Like you mentioned that last week or something. Yeah. And I was like, I understand. And
I wanted to make a comment on the 12 to 1 p.m. thing.
Yeah.
It's like a filter. And there's the Bitcoin Education Hub in Curacao. And it's like a shop front. On the shop front, there's free sats you can scan. It's like the Bitcoin faucets, 10 years ago, or 12 years ago. And you can scan that QR code every hour, it refreshes. And I saw people scanning it and then going to spend it at the shops nearby. But on the next side, there's the opening hours. The opening hours is like you can message the WhatsApp group to come here. And there's like one day it's open a week, and it's again a filter because you want to make sure that people who actually turn up there aren't just there to be scammers or whatever and genuinely aren't interested in Bitcoin. But I think that what you're getting at there is it's really hard to balance between okay, who's genuinely interested, like good natured about it as well in learning about Bitcoin, and how can we cater to those people while also filtering out all that sort of scamminess.
Plus capacity.
Plus capacity, yes.
So we have this is a very common, I'm glad you brought it up. This is very common. People ask, so, even online or like the Facebook groups and all this, how do you make it? And I say, okay, the first way is the invitations, because they have to be invitations now, like invite only, especially for like our Christmas party. It's attention Bitcoiners, and it's Bitcoiners. Now that's not enough, right? But it does, like you've got to have a little bit of brass to be like, all right, I'm gonna come into this Bitcoin only, and then it'll say exclusively for Bitcoiners, so that's like the first line of defense, and then we have to be delicate because we don't think everyone's a scammer. We like to trust first, but also like I'll ask them. Let me know how you're a Bitcoiner. And they're like, what do you want me to say? I'm like, I don't know. I'm typing you, dude. I don't know. Like random cool shit. Like someone sends a picture of a ledger or someone says like, I was this or this. Listen, Bitcoiners that want to be around Bitcoiners have no problem answering this because they appreciate that quality control.
That verify element, right?
Yeah. So it's not like I'm being a dick. It's like, it's like they're like, oh, I appreciate that you're catering to just that, because if they want to go do that, they could go on the weekend every Thursday and chat socially and drink and talk about all the other ones and all the things. But here we're Bitcoin focused. We've got a lot of great things going on. A lot of great people come through here. A lot of people live here. It's really wonderful. So, but yeah, to go right back to like this class thing is, if we help, like say, teach English, for free to highly qualified students, and there's a process. We've got to figure out the brackets, but like that's empowering. And if you don't make it about Bitcoin and they just come through, and they'll naturally, whether it's their family that bring them here, their parents, whether they're like, what are all these bright orange colors? Why, so like, I think that we have a response. Listen, we have this like Sailor says, a 10-year period right now where we could really help a lot of people. So that's why this is the fucking coolest thing. Are you ready for this? Are you ready for this? All right. So I decided, okay, how are we going to introduce, over the years, the number one thing is when you're working with the Hill Tribes, and the Hill Tribes we work with, it's Karens for Christ. There's 4,000 of them in 40 different villages.
What's that? Karens for Christ?
Karens for Christ. Karen Hill Tribe.
Okay.
But this is there's a Christian community.
Right, yeah.
So we've been supporting them for a number of years. And the number one thing is you have to build trust. So you can't go in there about Bitcoin. But like we help build bathrooms and kitchens and churches and dormitories and water wells. And we do a bunch of cool stuff. But we always just say, oh, it's because of Bitcoin. Even though we're not selling Bitcoin to do it, it's that we know that Bitcoin's our future. We believe in it so much that we could only be doing this because there's Bitcoin. Like, if you understand what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
So over the years, we've been very delicate about it. And another reason is that 6 or 7 years ago, maybe 2018, they had some scammer come in and convince the tribes to come together and pull together like 150,000 baht or $5,000. And that burn is still with them to this day. They got rug pulled, and, but for years, we're rocking the Bitcoin stuff. They're seeing it. The leader's been here and blessed the place. They're learning about it, but it's still very touch and go. Miners up there, it's a whole other story. So everyone was on board about how the random people supporting from across the world sending sats directly to the Bitcoin address of the miner in the jungle on top of the mountain 5 hours away. Like, they were on board, but there was one person in the board that was like, something seems fishy. So we had to unwind a little bit of that. But anyway, so
Jimmy, we need to tell that story, but just on the notes of how to enter these places as like sort of a foreigner trying to come in and either give aid or break, toxic dependencies and just, empower people. You're probably familiar with the work of Motive in Peru.
Yes, I
They're
am.
doing a similar thing.
Oh, so empowering.
And yeah, and it's that idea of, okay, how can we help people stand on their own 2 feet with, new technologies which are neutral, And they did a similar thing where initially it was just Bitcoin t-shirts, just like, how are you helping us? Oh, just Bitcoin. And then it was like, oh, this is how you use it.
Yes.
And so on. So I certainly understand why. And I think for people listening as well, like you can't just lead with Bitcoin as like, there's a solution to all your problems, fiat's going to zero, everything's like collapsing and you must have Bitcoin. It's like, no, it's going to talk about, okay, what are the problems, what are you addressing? Yes, I am wearing a Bitcoin t-shirt, I've got a Bitcoin logo on my hat, right? Thanks to Bitcoin, we're doing this work, but you cannot just lead with this. Bitcoin fixes this message, which is what a lot of people I do think get confused by sometimes because they're just so convinced and their conviction is just so strong.
You want to come right out and save the world.
Yeah, exactly. And that's I think that's the sort of first 2 or 3 years maybe of in Bitcoin. It's like, I've got to like just show people this thing. It's so good. It's like, discovering a new religion or a new ideology or something. It changes you. So you're like, I want to impart that change onto other people. And then I just wanted to say that first. And then I wanted you to tell the full story of, because maybe we have to explain what the Kostro Foundation does first.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Sorry, I'm all over the place. I'm excited about some of this stuff.
It's great.
The Kostro Foundation started as an education foundation in 2022, providing English teachers to orphanages in Chiang Mai. So we would work with orphanages. We would give an English teacher for 2 hours twice a week. And then that was kind of like what we wanted to do. So we helped them build like an all girls orphanage, or they call them children's homes here. Their bathroom was really bad. We went in there and started working on that. It was like a galvanizing experience, like just seeing these beautiful kids, wondering like who raises them, where they come from. So I entered that world and I wanted to help. And then eventually we ended up looking for the most disadvantaged communities and seeing what we could help there.
Did you found that? Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We founded it in 2022, and Fi's the director. So she's also been a part-time university professor for 12 years, which is super helpful. So it's an education-based foundation. And then over the last year, it's really morphed to financial education, but just financial savings. So really dumbing it down. And then just the last 6 months, and I see in the corner of my eye, like he's wearing a purple Noster shirt. I have to mention. So I had just in the last maybe 4 months, the last 3 months, got really excited about, always in the back of my head, how are we going to introduce Bitcoin to the Hill Tribes? And I started thinking, if we give them, if we were to give them 1 Bitcoin and have like a board and a multi-sig thing, and then they could spend, like Jeff Ross says, like 8% a year or something, but this didn't seem right. They didn't understand it. The value wasn't there. But then when Noster came around, I started thinking, wait a minute, this is a really unique opportunity. So I went to the conference and I'm like, I'm going to fly up the 4 most power user Noster people that want to be part of helping onboard 500 children to Noster.
In a hill tribe.
In a hill tribe. So I got super excited about it, and it became an initiative here. And it's in mode. So even today, Neo was working on like the different Noster clients that are natively translate into Thai. So like the settings, because you can't just go like, you have to have like the settings already be legible for the children.
Oh, I see. So because there's the whole Siam space of Nostra, right, which is the Thailand, all in Thai, right? And because I looked at it the other day because I was curious. But just before you explain the solution, what is the reality of someone living in a hill tribe in Thailand? So they do have a smartphone, but they might not have a working toilet.
So
what does life look like for a hill tribe?
So our research indicates that in the hill tribes, the average salary is below 5,000 Thai baht, which is 135 euro or 145 US dollars per month. So it's extreme poverty. However, in these villages, we found that over 75% of these children or young adults and adults have smartphones. And this Christmas, there's a big gathering. We have big gatherings. One year we had 3,000 people together and we brought them blankets. It was a really inspiring event. This year there's 500 people going to Utum, this top of the mountain where we had built this big kitchen hall, dining hall and bathrooms for the kids. So there's 500 people are going to this event. And then the light bulb started clicking on and off. I mean, started clicking on and I'm like, okay, if we could put a public notice on the internet and say, anyone in Thai, you're going to come speak native Thai. I don't need to be involved at all. Come up here and just teach them the very basics of how to get on Nostr and how they could just send and receive. Because these children, they never give, they get a lot. But imagine the power of being able to give a couple sats to someone. So now we have paid for their round trip flights. We have paid vans. We have a date. It's December 14th at 7 a.m. There's like trucks of us going. There's like a video guy going from their team. And we're going to have multiple different, we understand that the iOS people are different than the Google phone, the Android phones. So they have different Nostr clients. And we're going to do everything we can to help onboard these hill tribes. And you've got to think like this is their first time interacting with money. They're skipping the euro, the dollar, and the baht. They're going to go from nothing to Bitcoin. And we're way okay if it's only 5 or 10% really take hold of it. Because, Nostr's still a little clunky. But a big part of the educational journey that we're asking the 4 technologists, we call them, the teachers, is let them know it's blocky. Let them know it's challenging. But remind them, you must tag the word Chiang Mai. You must tag the word Hill Tribe. So guys like us all over the world could follow on the tags and maybe just send them, 1,000 sats and and teach them about doing good and like helping their brother or helping their sister. And by capturing that and sharing that for the first time, these hill tribes could monetize. Because like I said on stage Superior, with inflation, you can't get a second job. You have what crops you have. But that all of a sudden someone sends 5,000 sats to this kid because he helped uncle do something nice with the tomatoes or cleaned up some garbage and did a good act. Like this is a good way to educate the kids, inspire the kids, empower the kids. And even if it doesn't work, it's the effort, the energy, the infectious, contagious attitude about how Bitcoin could really help out there. And even if we just get a couple people in the game and we encourage them to keep doing it, we repost their stuff, it's a win. It's just a win just talking about it.
So we don't know what could happen.
We do not know.
We don't know if that means that then other hill tribes will follow suit. And because it could be a pilot project that is a massive success, it could just be an experiment that's just fun to try, right? But the fact that you are able to onboard hill tribes in Thailand onto Nostr is in itself mental, also amazing, right?
Yeah.
So does that mean that these hill tribes have data or they have Wi-Fi?
Yes. So
what's penetration? What's coverage like?
Coverage is great. Coverage is great. One of our survey results is how good is the coverage? Maybe I shouldn't say great. It's good enough. Depending on these villages are geographically separated. So, but up there where our main focus is, everyone's connected. So it's strong enough. We actually even got Wi-Fi all the way up to some of these villages. We installed Wi-Fi in villages that never had Wi-Fi before. We've installed power in some of the villages that never had power before.
We'll come to that one as well. It's just that on the Wi-Fi thing, do you use Starlink or do you actually install?
So we're not Starlink isn't in Thailand yet.
Okay.
But it's in Burma.
Right.
And we're just sitting.
Burma, not in Thailand.
Oh, I don't know.
Burma's on fire.
But you could borrow some.
Oh, I see.
You could borrow some.
Close, right?
Yeah, but we don't want to get we gotta make sure we don't get in trouble so we can continue on all of our escapades.
Yeah.
But we are taking on a Burmese intern, and we told her you'd be the department of helping educate how Bitcoin could help with the remittance and help with the cross-border payments and savings technology. So, but we can talk about offline maybe because it's kind of new and we don't
No,
want
of
to
course,
get.
of course. But no, I mean, just the general thing. You think Thai is more Thai than it is, and you speak to a lot of people, and they're Filipino or Burmese. There's loads of Burmese, and of course, to the conflict and the troubles there. Thailand's a massive melting pot of Southeast Asian cultures, right?
Definitely.
You feel like the food, but just like the culture generally. And I thought Thai was more Thai than it was, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, it's like
Yeah,
when
yeah,
you
yeah.
go to I don't know, London or Paris or something, you realize, oh no, it's not just English people that live here. It's like a whole, there's all sorts of people from all over the world that live here. So clearly there's a use case then for those people who are sending money home. And I guess particularly in those border towns, there's going to be even more influx of people from different countries. But okay, so you're installing internet, you're onboarding this village into Noster. There's this other component, which is, people won't have seen this clip on from the Time Bitcoin Conference. I doubt it. But what is the story behind you helping a village up in the mountains of Thailand mine Bitcoin? What's the story?
So, we noticed that the children at this children's home were very small and they lacked nutrition. And this is because they're just eating rice and they don't have power for refrigeration. So I said, well, what if we can build like a 5 kilowatt solar system, and then that's enough to power a freezer, and then they could store vegetables and fruits and protein, and that could be a good thing. So that was it. We literally did that. We said, hey, here's a freezer, here's this, and this is the community that we built a relationship with. And then we recognized that, like, during the day, you could power the freezer and it could create ice. And so you don't have to use like all of the battery all the time at night. And they weren't really using all of the power.
Where's the power come from here?
So we had built a solar. This is in Omgoi, in Nakian, 5 hours from here in Chiang Mai, at the end of where there's schools, the last thing, and then about a mile or 2 kilometers further is this children's home. So they're really close to power, but they're not close enough. We did convince, after 9 months, the government to help us run a wire of internet all the way for 2 kilometers, which is on like bamboo poles. It's freaking crazy. And then they're bent over, like make sure the truck's like not going to hit it. It's crazy. So we built this solar system. We brought up the freezer. They used the freezer, but we were generating more energy than they were needing to use. We just had no more use for it. So then I reached out to the guys in Bob Space in Bangkok and said, hey, I understand. I'm fascinated by mining, but I don't know about hobby mining. I don't know if it's worth it. I got extra energy. They're like, if you've got extra energy, you're going to plug in one of our donated. All right, we're going to try. So we went up there, did a site assessment, looked good, came back up and plugged them in. And it was mind blowing. We had 2 miners running, and the data at the time pre-halving said, if it runs consistently, it's going to generate 40,000 sats per month. Now,
Pre-halving?
Pre-halving. So, and that's if it's running full time.
Right.
And it gets dark, it doesn't run full time. You don't want to run miners on batteries, and it's dusty and it's dirty, and there's just a million challenges with it. Not a million, but there's plenty of challenges. So, but what happened as soon as we did that and we started mentioning it online, we got an overwhelming support. Like the very day that we took a photo of these miners online, we had received more sats to the Bitcoin address of the miner than it would generate for an entire year. It was just crazy. So that was inspiring. So the idea is, it's not because really it's going to come out to like $5 or something, $7 a month. And you've got to maintain it, and you got to remote in. And I know there's some guys that said they could help me with it. It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
But if you're getting donated solar panels, donated batteries, donated inverters, donated mining rigs, it does make sense because it brings awareness to these villages, and it sends a signal saying, hey, here's this children's home, middle of the jungle, on top of a mountain, 5 hours away, that's on the Bitcoin network. And that's a step. That's cool. And that So that awareness alone is things like we're talking about now.
Here, just the physical space that you can point to, and maybe people say like, "What's Bitcoin?" Like, "Oh, I know what Bitcoin is because of the Chiang Mai Education Center," or "I know what Bitcoin is because my village is mining it." It brings something physical to this completely ethereal and thing you can't touch. You can't feel a Bitcoin, and so suddenly with a Bitcoin mining, like, "Oh no, I get it. That thing, even though it's not real, it's spitting out Bitcoin, so whatever it may be." So, and I totally get it.
There's so many challenges about it because you don't want to put too much infrastructure there. But we have a relationship with another village that this Saturday I'm scheduled to go visit again, do a site assessment with Piccolo from Bob Space. And they have like 20 times the amount of solar in this village. So what happened was the government built a dam. The dam displaced their land, their cattle, their houses. They said, in return, we're going to give you this $100,000 solar system to light up your village.
And it works.
They got obviously the shit end of the deal here, but like,
no, but the solar, I've heard of similar deals like this. There's one in Curacao, and the solar installation they made was like faulty, so it generally works.
Oh, it totally works, and it's a serious site. I'd love to show you. Like, I do have like a 30-second video. I'll show you later. Just that you could just see by how many batteries and inverters they have, how much power they have, and there's some photos of the solar panels. So I went there. And because it's northern Thailand has this rainy season, they also have these steam generator that's powered by like coal, and they have like a gas generator. So the government gave them supplies, gave them this off-grid setup. So now we're thinking about we're going to see if we could power the S19s you saw downstairs.
Yeah.
Because this is a larger system, it could take that larger load and see if we could connect them to the Bitcoin network. Now this time,
Mine more Bitcoin.
we might be able to not only mine more Bitcoin, but mine more Bitcoin. This time we might be able to mine more Bitcoin, and it could actually help offset some of their costs. Like even if it's $50, if you look at it at the end of the month, or if we could run 2 of the miners. But back to it, like if you think about a lot of these corporations globally, how could they like do what we're doing? Well, instead of people donating like food for lunch and these things, why not donate like solar panels, batteries, inverters, old miners we don't need, and then like you said, it's like it's a physical place that the rite of passage could say, I want to make this point of our tour, or people say, oh, or Bitcoiners are touring around. So what it does is like it helps that village because maybe they're making food and they get more visitors because someone made the actual effort, a lot of work to get these guys on the network, keep them on the network. So it's powerful, but it's more powerful than the actual sats that it generates.
Yeah. No, it's something to point to, and similar to the Nostra story, there are these second and third order consequences that we just can't fathom. Whether or not it becomes a stock or a point of interest or the rite of passage or something else. Bitcoiners are going to want to go there. They're going to want to visit, and the Bitcoiners are famously very generous. Like you've got countless stories of this, I have my own personal stories of this. So I think it can only lead to better things. I can't think of the negatives basically to this. Like if you have excess power and you're in a village that doesn't know what to do with that power, you're getting minus. What's the counter argument? Why would you not?
Noise.
Okay, is it really? I mean, I guess it
is loud like that.
Heat, I guess it doesn't matter because it's set by here anyway, right?
Yeah, you have to have static IP. Yeah, there's some like basic things you have to be able to like any desk in.
Okay.
Because you're not on the same Wi-Fi or internet. But yeah, I mean, if someone's going to go through that trouble to do it, and as long as there's a couple Bitcoiners within reach that want to do something for society or do some social good, these are cool little projects, And if you could keep it going, and then it could say, what is this? Why is this working? Why are people coming to my village? And then they have ideas of how they might want to help them with another project. And then it, like you said, second and third order consequences. There's the positives dramatically outweigh the alternative.
So for the first project, what came of it in the end? They're no longer mining there.
Yeah. So after 5 days, one of the board members was like, well, I just don't understand why we got $150. Like,
Oh,
someone explained this to me, and they
there are
just,
crazy people around the world who love this stuff.
yeah.
You just have to believe.
And we didn't want to be friction or cause disruption in their village. Their life is hard enough.
Yeah.
So we said, okay, that's okay. Do you mind if we like take it down to the headquarters that's on the grid? Because we need to put this equipment somewhere. We didn't want to bring it back here. So we went on grid, and even plugging in on grid, it wasn't cost effective. But those generous Bitcoiners from around the world made it very cost effective. We had a very similar experience. We ran it for another 5 days. I think it was the same person, raised flags. You shouldn't do it up there. You can't do it here. We don't know what this is. So, but again, and as much as like, no, please, like we could have said, do it, because we are such big contributors of all that, but we're not. We don't want to cause any friction.
Yeah.
So we said, listen, man, if we're going to go to this one over here that's got 100 kilowatts of power, are we going to have to unplug it after a week? They said, no, you're if you could get it going there, you'll be good. But we still have to see how real that is, because it sounds good when we're talking about it. Sounds good in translation.
Yeah.
And then once you have these roaring miners going, it could be a different story.
That was what I was going to ask. Yeah. So what do you do with sound? I mean, I know there's the Norwegian projects where there've been a lot of complaints about the noise, and then there's the massive sort of the gigawatt projects in the south of the US where there've been complaints about noise. And when you see news reporters go there and do these sound tests, whatever, it is like a sort of low hum when you're far away. But I guess in a village, when it's plugged in next to the solar panel, how loud are we talking? We're talking like disrupting sleep. We're disrupting like social harmony.
Yeah. It's pretty loud. I mean, like, for anyone listening that doesn't know the sound of Bitcoin miner, it's like take a blender and then that hand dryer in the restaurant.
Yeah.
That's really loud, and put that together, and that's kind of like what it is. It sounds that kind of crazy loud.
The bar in Manchester where they've got an upside down S9 in the room above, in the men's toilets, and so they've got a funnel coming down from there. You dry your hands with the heat,
Brilliant.
but the noise is all upstairs. But there's a guy in the UK who's made a thing called a hush box.
Yeah.
And I made a video about his house last year because he was trying to work out a way to heat his home, be completely off grid solar panels called steam. Became off grid steam.
Yeah.
But with those hush boxes, maybe I could ask him to send some out. You basically put the S9 or S19, whatever it is, in this box, and then if you want to channel the heat somewhere, which you probably don't want to do in Thailand, but it's an option. But the noise is just eradicated. It's the equivalent of having PlayStation plugged in next to you, or when a laptop goes a bit like overheated. It's like that kind
A couple of the guys had started building like these Foot Locker things.
Okay, yeah. I'm sure you can do a copycat.
So-
You probably open source code.
I'm sure. But so we had Canadian Dan Bitcoiner come to your lot, build one for the S9s, and then we upgraded the S19,
nice. Yeah.
and because we got taken down before we could launch it. But yeah, so we're going to solve that problem. But again, like, it takes passion. It takes someone that has passion to make sure that they want to maintain the project, because all these things are fun, but you need some people that are like, that really want to keep it going, because it costs fuel to get there. You've got to communicate. You've got to take the time for translation. Sometimes you need equipment. You got to educate this project.
Yeah. It's definitely a long-term thing. You're testing stuff, seeing what sticks, and then reiterating and making it. But I don't know. I see the Hill Tribe sort of experiments, pilots, definitely going somewhere. I just don't know what it's going to look like.
Yeah.
I mean, have you thought of introducing Bitcoin as a money in these places, like, so sort of slowly phase out cash? Going from cash, because these guys aren't banked, right? You mentioned they were underbanked at the very least.
Yeah.
What's the situation like?
They have such easy access to their banking mobile apps that there's really no need for that. They don't have much saving. They don't, teaching. One of our studies for our formal academic Bitcoin research is, are they aware of any educational workshops about finance? And it was like 78 or 90%, 78 or 79%. They said no, they're not aware. So I think education first, and like savings technology first. Like I said earlier, this is a really great opportunity, a great period of time to see it changing. And as I was talking to staff and some guests last week, whether you make 50,000 baht, 15,000 baht, or 5,000 baht, if we could help them learn about saving 10%, even the ones that are earning the least, if we could just teach the power of saving 10%, good noble effort. Not everyone's going to jump and scream and say this is great, but it's a good noble effort to try.
Yeah. I think that's one of the major differences I'm observing between Thailand and the other sort of economies or Bitcoin empowerment projects. I don't know how to describe them. Like whether it's Bitcoin Beach in El Salvador or Bitcoin Kazi in South Africa or the Motive projects in Peru or even like the Cuba Bitcoin community. A lot of those places are using Bitcoin increasingly as money and phasing out fiat cash because incumbent banking solutions completely failed them. In Peru, the nearest ATM was 200 miles away. It was on a road that was like through the Andes Mountains. So it's just hectic. You're never ever gonna go back to the ATM and get cash out. So the cash that's sort of in these towns just sort of lives there until it runs out, and someone has to go to the ATM. And so for there, sending sats over Lightning makes total sense. El Salvador, Mike Peterson's story with banking and bank there, same thing. The banking solutions there are crap. But in Thailand, as you mentioned, they've got phones, internet coverage is good enough. So online banking, because of this Thailand interbanking, it works. And then, so you've got to look at sort of other ways. So the mining and the saving makes total sense within that. But then I wanted to ask on that, with this interbanking layer, how close is that to a CBDC? Is that like, because that's the picture that I'm getting ahead of this, because it's very easy to surveil that kind of thing. If all the banks are in on it, then you've got the whole cabal potentially tracking you and being able to then censor you if they wanted to. And Thailand being a semi-authoritarian regime, there's certain things you can and can't say. Freedom of speech is limited.
Yep.
Is that fair comparison to make? Is this banking infrastructure?
It's definitely fair comparison.
Smart Pay was called?
Prompt Pay?
Prompt Pay. Is it kind of like a CBDC? Is that
kind of like a CBDC?
Okay.
If they want those transactions, the bank can't say no.
Right. Okay.
So it is close. However, and boy, as Bitcoiners, do we dislike CBDC? But as I do the research with the team, you see how, like, as you get further out into these villages, that CBDCs, there's a period of time of a person's life. If she's a grandma and she's got 3 years to live, CBDCs can be very beneficial. They reach a lot of people. She's not trying to do cross-border payments. I'm not advocating for CBDC.
She's not starting a revolution, and
she's not.
She's also going from having cash under a mattress to cash.
Or she didn't even have cash. She had no access, and then here all of a sudden, it is the prettiest shitcoin.
Yeah, it's convenient.
It's sexy. Everyone's talking about it. It's just got pumped into your blood and your veins, and everyone's using it. And the least educated are like, this is free money, and fluid. So which makes it so scary. But for a period of time, it is effective for these disadvantaged or marginalized communities until it's too entrenched. Luckily, we're extremely loud about it. We're extremely concerned about it, but we're already very, very close, with that. But I also believe they'll let that go, and it's going to be hard because they can't pull the plug or start cutting people off too early, because then everyone's going to realize this is, so I think that the CBDC has to kind of make its way, and they got to be very tolerant towards the people speaking up against it, because if they try to pull that cord too quick, then they're not going to be able to achieve their dream of the CBDC. But and then CBDCs, as I do my research, they have the border problem. So that's a pretty big problem, because once you start getting to the edges, like in Burma and Malaysia and Indonesia, doesn't work. So you need to have this big cabal, Southeast Asian. There's some complexities that they're going to have to come through.
But on this sort of local to Thai level, it is effective in banking the unbanked, even though it is an awful, surveillance. Well, potential tool for surveillance. Have there been examples of people being struck off from prompt pay, whether it's
no, I'm not familiar. they don't really talk about it. Like you don't, if it happens, it's not something that you're going to hear about in the news or something. Because
So that's also because they're using
exactly,
because they're not able to.
they're not exactly. So anything that's like that could happen. You really don't hear much about it. And like I know that if I do a donation or a contribution of over 100,000, which is like $3,000, I have to do like facial recognition, blink my eyes, smile, turn my head, all these things, to make sure it's the updated me. Um, and then when you come into Thailand, like you do sign to the majesty, like this one document that's like, they're allowed to be like very intrusive into your financial situation.
As an expat moving here,
Yeah,
is
yeah.
that the long-term visa?
Yeah, that's for all the visas here.
Right, okay.
Like that's one main page that I owe. It's like pretty like clear that we have autonomy on if we want to at any time to go through financial stuff. Good for us. We're just here to spend money. So
Yeah.
we're like here to educate and contribute to, so we don't have any friction. We have people sometimes wonder like, why do you want to help? They can't wrap their head around like, I don't understand. Why are you building this? Why are you doing this? Why are you educating?
I didn't even think to question that, but it's a very good question.
It's really common. We get it a lot. Even people close to us want to know what it is. Like, what are we getting out of it? What are we getting out of teaching 100 Thai people about savings technology?
I'm just too naive, too optimistic about humanity, like because it's the right thing to do, duh. Like but no.
That's what I said. I said on a call a week ago, one of her friends called from Texas. She's like, but I just don't understand what you get out of it. And I'm like, doing the right,
People, it feels good as well. Like
yeah,
it, I'm
like
happy for it.
yeah, and I understand, and everyone's in a different place, and like eventually, like so there's that challenge too.
Interesting. Are you Christian?
Yeah, Christian.
Is it sort of driven by Christian?
No, I was Catholic growing up, which is part of Christianity, and when I got involved in helping these communities, I saw how these children didn't have living parents, but they have religion and Christianity, and it keeps them so happy, and it keeps them good spirited, and they learn about kindness, and they learn about passage from the Bible. That it really had a big impact on my faith, and really reborn my Christianity. And I started going to church with them, and they go to church a lot in the morning. They sing, they worship, they jam out for the first 15 minutes. It's electric. It's really, really good for children's homes that have this structure, and to have a pastor and someone that they could look towards and learn from, and the scriptures, and yeah. So
Yeah, no, I totally get it. I mean, the Thai is mostly Buddhist, right?
yeah, no, over
in these
90%.
northern tribe communities, it's more.
It's a pocket. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So I guess that's an overlap too, right? Because I feel like I've stolen your question, your answer to why do you do this? Like, why do you do this? Let's play devil's advocate. Why are you helping people? Why are you helping people understand financial literacy and Bitcoin, and why are you helping people with fridges and freezers in the hill tribe of Thailand?
I just think I want to figure out, well, what's the best use of my time? So I found Bitcoin. It's totally changed my life. I had great success with my delivery business, both businesses. I'm very fortunate to have been in this position. And so I said, well, what is the mark I could leave? What is the impact that I could do? What strengths do I have that I could translate here living as a visitor in their land? And when I realized that, the power of giving puts their smiles on their face. And I felt like the girl should have a sanitary bathroom and not be like living in sewage. And I'm not saying they were living in sewage, but like, when you start spending time in these it's really, really sad, like overwhelming. So I thought, if I could help contribute 1 or 2% towards building things and helping people, that feels good. And I think that it leads a good life, and it helps set the right example. And I'm just, I try to ask myself, like, people say, well, they just said recently, well, one of the young guys, why would you spend so much money building this place? from scratch when you can just buy Bitcoin. And, you know,
I get the question a lot myself and my work as well. It's funny, isn't it?
And-
They are right. It would be we would be richer.
We would be
if we
richer.
if we just bought Bitcoin and sat at home.
but what if like we could inspire other people? And what if we could empower other people? And what if they can learn something and follow their dreams or be around, you know, very talented folks? What if this is that proverbial beacon or lighthouse for somebody? So why do I do it? I'm not sure that I think it's a responsibility. You know, I wonder all the time, why doesn't everybody else do it? You know, like you guys, you know, and I know everyone's different, but for me, like the best use of my time is helping people because it's honestly, Joe, it's selfish. Like it feels good. You know, it does. It feels good to help people and to see that, you know, that you can make an impact and hope that, you know, we provide scholarships for a lot of children. And if they get over like a 3.5, we pay for their housing, their monthly housing, which is $100 a month. I make American money. It's really fortunate to do so well in my 30s.
Let's go.
Let's help where we can help. And like, so yeah. I still try to like ask myself these deep rooted questions. So I maybe I'll have a more clear answer for you as time
No,
continues.
that's a big answer. I must admit, that's a very good answer. I mean, I think people forget that Bitcoin is incredibly scarce, but your time is even more scarce and more precious. So if you have a bit of Bitcoin, maybe it's time to think about, okay, what should I do with my time?
Yeah.
Sort of a question related to that is, would this have been possible without Bitcoin? Would
No.
you still taken this path to some extent?
No, I would have been too worried about my future. I would have been too worried about how am I going to retire? You know, I've been too worried about hustling and stressing and trying to build the next thing. Like, you know, a lot of people say, well, what are you going to do next? I'm like, this is it. They're like, what's the business plan? I'm like, this is the business plan. They're like, you know, I don't understand. I'm like, you know, so like to do something next, you know, to invest $50,000 into a project, like, and start something and stress and worry. And we know that 50% of small businesses don't make it after 5 years. And like, why am I going to take that risk when this is everything? It embodies everything that I believe in, that this is the business. So there is no next. This is the next. And if we create this building and it brings in hundreds of Bitcoiners every month or every quarter, and they meet friends and we get to want to go on and do something, or they, whatever it is, those connections and that networking, that's the business plan. This is it. Like, you know, how Mahler says, like, he's going to die on that hill or sink on that ship. Like I don't want the plan B or how, like, was it Tony Robbins or those guys say, like, burn the ships. It's Bitcoin. Like I'm, you know, I'm fully there. So
Man,
money's meant to be spent.
back to you. And so if anyone's listening and thinking, I want to do what Jimmy's doing, I want to have some impact locally or maybe on a bigger scale, I don't know. What sort of advice and what pointers would you share with them?
I would just say talk about what you're interested in a lot, and it attracts the right people. You find the right people when you talk about the things you're interested in. It doesn't have to be about Bitcoin. Like I know this is Bitcoiners that are listening to this.
No, but this is education led. Like it's a Bitcoin learning center.
Yes.
With a capital L learning. You know.
Yeah.
Obviously, Bitcoin is the part of the magnet that brings all those Bitcoiners here. But ultimately, what you're trying to do is you're trying to educate people about just better practices generally.
Yeah.
Bitcoin is part of it.
Specifically, the savings technology. Specifically, English. You know, that's a great thing. Or these basic finance classes. But for other people listening, about how could they do something similar? Like, I know everyone hasn't had, you know, been in a similar situation, but you could help people just by opening the door for someone or being kind to someone or taking a breath or taking better care of yourself. You know, that helps a lot of people. Takes a lot of stress off your family, your friends. It's inspiring. It's contagious. So that's how you could help. You could take better care of yourself. You could take better care of your community where you live. You could do what you believe is right. You could continue to keep learning. You know, I want our staff here to just learn about anything each day. I know we have so much going on, but if you're learning about something you're interested in, like Neo said, he's like, man, podcasting is something I might want to do. I'm like, hey man, you got a lot of people that come through here. It must be a great, cool thing. You got the equipment,
Got proof of concept.
you got proof of concept, you got the building, you work here, so like if you're interested in, I say, do what you're interested in doing, take the next steps, ask for help. People will find you. People want to help. People are genuinely kind and generous. I believe people are good. And that's just my hope and my advice for anyone else that wants to know what they could do. Just take better care of yourself and talk about what you're interested in.
Lovely. I'm coming up to my last question. However, is there anything I haven't asked you that you'd like to be asked, or is there anything that we haven't touched upon that you think is important to discuss or share or shed light on?
Not really. I mean, I want to kind of bring this question back to you. Like, what do you, are you going to come back to Thailand? Like, how do you feel about your experience here? And what can you tell us just a couple brief moments about what your first experience in Thailand is like?
Oh, thanks. Yeah, no, it's been lovely. It's been really, really great. And it's also been so necessary. I mean, the way I came here was very last minute and very much thanks to an awful a lovely crypto conference. Thanks so much to those guys for letting me come here. And then every time I travel, I always try to work out what's going on with that Bitcoin scene there, and then try to sort of bring that content to life, because I'm always amazed by, you can go to all four corners of the planet now, barring maybe, Antarctica or something. There's probably a couple of Antarctica scientific researchers who are hot, let's be honest. So I think you can go anywhere and travel with Bitcoin and also learn about what's going on about Bitcoin locally. And we met in Hong Kong, and then I'd seen some of the content about Bitcoin Chiang Mai. So when I met Korea last week, I was like, okay, I need to find some way of getting up there. Last week I was too, burnt out to make the trip, but here now, rejuvenated, loving seeing it. It is very inspiring what you're doing, and I can see that it's definitely got legs and it's going somewhere. I'm excited to see it and like where it goes, because you've already got this amazing foundation. And then first impression of Thailand, wonderful country, very easy place to be a tourist, very safe place to be a tourist. And I was speaking to my girlfriend about it this week. I was like, we need to come back here and make more time from it. And she's really into yoga and spirituality. So like, we'll do some go beat up some Thai dudes doing Muay Thai. She'll do the yoga stuff, and we'll just I think it's a really good place to feel healthy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because good quality, healthy food is affordable, and it seems to be like locally prepared, and like the fruit and everything is just it really sings here. And the Thai people are lovely, so welcoming, and even when they're trying to sell you something, it's not done in a way that's like invasive or annoying. Like you can get it, like, I'm not going to mention companies, but you know what I mean. I've been really blown away by it, and I now understand why when a lot of people do like round the world trips about their first couple of countries like Thailand, it's where they sort of get their legs across the world. So yeah, I'm very excited to come back next year. I don't know when. I think I'd want to come in the European winter. So I guess that means around this time next year, make more of a go of it. Also do some surfing in Phuket, because apparently you can surf down there. And a mate of mine just moved there. Do you know Alex from Heatbit, Bitcoin miners as heaters?
No, I think they're coming up though in December.
Oh, great. So yeah, he's just moved to Phuket. Apparently he's moved from China over there. And yeah, I mean, as a nomad or someone that's like travels a lot, it's just, this should absolutely be one of your absolute go-to spots on the sort of nomad map of the world, and maybe longer term as well. I don't know. So no, I've been loving it. It's been great. And it's really great to have you here as well.
Thanks for coming.
Oh, thanks, mate. Yeah. Okay, so last question. You mentioned what you're hoping to achieve in the next year, let's say. What would the extension, making this more of a hub, get more Thai people involved. But you mentioned, half a business is failing in 5 years. Where's this going to be in 10 years if it is a success?
Yeah. So right now we believe our biggest impact could be our formal academic research. We think that could reach the most people. Unlike a lot of publications that have these paywalls you have to pay for, I understand. People do a lot of work. All of ours is going to be open source for everyone globally to look at the data. Even the people in Indonesia, our friends down there in Bali, are very active in our research, very interested in it. I believe that if we could continue, we want to start on another another formal academic paper, different topics. I'm not sure. So 10 years is a long window, but I think that shines a really good light, and I think it could help the most amount of people having these publications that would work towards her doctorate. I only have like 6 or 7 college credits, so it's not for me. But I love to help guide the research. So I think that 10 years. 10 years is a good time. Willie Wu was here last week. We had coffee, and I said that I think the foundation can run itself off of 5 Bitcoin in perpetuity forever. And so I'm looking at AI and AI giving the directives of the foundation with just our inputs, so our custom GPTs, and then having a treasury that you would borrow against when institutional lending arrives, or sell very little bit each year. So let's just say, for hypothetical, the foundation, the lowest running cost for salaries and to keep the lights on is $50,000 a year. So at 100,000 Bitcoin, 5 Bitcoin, 500,000, 10% a year, I believe you could safely shave off. That's just where we are today. So maybe this time next year it'd be 2.5. But I believe that we could have the foundation run itself with directives from AIs. What should I be doing this week? Bitcoin, funding it forever. So that equals your 10-year mark. And in that 10 years, seeing how many people we could reach, teaching about the savings technology, because this 10 years is the whole 10 years. This is the greatest opportunity of a lifetime to teach about financial savings. There's not a better time. Not 5 years ago, not 5 years from today. So we take this window, we help as many people as we can, we experiment with as much as we can, we pilot as much as we can, we test the waters, we teach, if we can, English, whatever brings people through here, whatever someone's really good at wants to talk about. That's what I see happening. I see that we take up this whole area. When they want to sell their place, they want to sell their place. I say this should become a huge lighthouse in northern Thailand and in Southeast Asia as a whole, as a research center, as a learning center. It could not just Bitcoin, but learning about all sorts of different things, helping the Thai government, being part of the community. I think that the next 10 years for us is going to be just totally explosive.
Amazing. I totally forgot about Thai government. Apparently they're stacking, right? Is that right?
So I messaged you. I was messaging you. The Jan 3 guys are like around. Yeah. They're coming up Friday.
Okay.
So he had reached out to me the same time that you were reaching out with Pierre, and Pierre's very busy.
Yeah.
So Jan 3's having the same kind of like scheduling conflicting. Let me see. Because of your podcast with Samson, I saw this. You had spoke with Samson.
Yeah.
I saw that.
Oh, nice.
And I'm like, and then
I got him to docs that he was in Thailand.
Yeah, you did, and we were watching that, right? And I was like, oh, wait, there's a dude here, part of that team. I'm like, hey, are you okay? Like, do you have everything you need, brother man? Yeah. He's like, actually, and so I'm like, okay, cool. So because of you, I was able to connect those guys and find out that like they're working on the legal documentation and preparing in the event or full event of this occurring. We believe eventually it will occur. So it was because of you in Berlin, that conversation I watched. I had word that one of the guys was reaching out to me about some other BitDev stuff, was here having tough time with Pyria. I kind of said, hey, please make some time for this guy. And luckily it seems like that ball is moving forward. And well, maybe if I'm lucky, I'll learn more on Friday.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Breaking.
Stacking. Thailand.
Thousands of Bitcoin.
Hopefully. We're here to help.
Cool. Savings technology. Thank you so much, Jimmy.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Shake your hand. Thank you, mate.
That was the charismatic Jimmy Kostro in Thailand. To keep up with his work, please check www.bitcoinchiangmai.org or Jimmy Kostro on Twitter or Nostr. I would briefly like to thank Plan B Network, a wonderful resource to learn about Bitcoin. And I'd also like to do a quick shout out to Coin Corner, a British Bitcoin exchange that's been going for 10 years. I hope you'll subscribe to check out my content about Bitcoin in Thailand coming very soon. And if not, do what you love and save in Bitcoin.